every organization has a tradition, one or even more than one. Your organization, your competitors, probably every single organization, company, business unit, entity, division, or however you want to call it, they all have traditions. The main issue always is when people say we have traditions, at the same time they think, well, on the one hand, we say we have traditions and we frequently claim that this is traditional due to XYZ. At the same time, we say we are a modern organization and we want to be ready for change. How can you at the same time be traditional and change ready? So the main question here is, how do you deal with tradition? And of course, it is not a coincidence that we talk about this topic today. I am in London right now, and the coronation is just over for a couple of hours. So the rain stopped pretty much, and so it wasn't too bad for most of the time. The coronation is just done, and of course, the discussion goes on for weeks already. How do we deal with tradition? And in the UK, of course, often people claim it is a bit more traditional. At the same time, they have a very vibrant startup scene here. And the question is, how can you at the same time be traditional and so open for new business? So the coronation of King Charles III is now over, and the discussion leads around the question how to deal with tradition. Is it good or bad? And because I was here, I received a couple of emails before about if I could talk about tradition and the coronation and business. And of course I can. But I wanted to see the coronation first because I need to see it first before I can make up my mind. The last coronation is way too long ahead. I wasn't even born when that happened. So I was here in London, including the whole I don't want to call it lockdown, the whole locking off of central London. When I went out the night before and I came out, they already put the steel walls up that you couldn't walk anywhere. And every 2 or 3 meters, you had someone from security staff, either police or military, a volunteer or someone who comes from security services. So they really surveillanced whole central London every 2 to 3 meters. And that is not an exaggeration. The amount of people that were involved in this event, which was very well organized, I have to say, even including when they locked off central London. And I asked, how do I get my taxi back to my place, etc. Everything was perfectly well organized. So thank you very much for everyone who was involved here. The main issue often is that people with tradition are either A or B. They normally say it's traditional and that's why it's good because it works, or they say it's traditional and that's why it manifests something which is outdated, so it's bad. And both of these claims are not valid. If you want to make a very short, not well thought through decision, then you go for one of these two. And then often you hear the phrases of, oh, we've always done it like that. Or you say, we've never done it like that. Or if you challenge the status quo and you're in the company for less than 10 years, they might just ask, who do you think you are? So we've always done that. We've never done that. Or who do you think you are? A very clear indication that you need to talk about tradition in your organization very quickly. So one thing is absolutely crystal clear. It is never the case that due to tradition, something is automatically good, but also due to tradition is not automatically bad. We have to look into different factors, positive and negative ones. So let's look into the positive factors first. 3 main aspects you have to look into. Number 1 is, what actions do people do? And can you prove that there is an advantage, any kind of benefit due to the action? Is there a very clear link between the action and the benefit, the advantage you see? And by the way, it has to be factual. It is not that you see an advantage that you feel or an advantage that you think. It has to be proven by facts, evidence, basically on scientific level. So aspect number 1 is look at the actions. If you see a benefit coming from it, and this benefit is for everyone, and the organization, of course, then you probably have a good tradition, because aspect number two is the people. So when you look at people, first, of course, you look at skills. What do they do? Then you look at sustainability. Are they doing it in a way that it is sustainable? It doesn't only work right now. It will work in 5 years, 10 years, probably 20 years. It is good for the organization, good for society, good for the planet. Sustainability. And then you have to look into, why do people actually do that? Because, of course, you could now claim, well, people do it because I tell them to do so. Yeah, that might be a reason, but we have to see, do people do it out of altruism? So is it something they are really genuinely interested in? Because if that's the case, then it's a good aspect. So aspect number 2 is people. Look at the facts. Are they doing it from an altruistic motive? Do they have the skills? Is there a sustainable result to what they do, which links back to the first, to the actions, what we just talked about? Aspect number 3 are the results. Are there any results that you can prove? Proof and evidence on a factual, scientific level that you see. So first you look at the actions that were done by people, and then you have to look into results. And when there are definite positive results, I just give you an example. If someone says the royal family in London is crucial for London and UK tourism and brings in billions of pounds per year, very quickly people who are against the monarchy say, well, can you prove that? And well, they did. And when you look at what the monarchy cost the taxpayer, it cost the taxpayer roughly between 1.2 and 1.8 billion pound a year, and it brings in 4 billion pound a year in taxes, people factually there, etc., etc. There was a scientific study about that. So when you look into this, it's factually a 100% return on investment. That is pretty good. However, do you need to be the head of state to bring in the tourists? Well, most likely not. You could do the same with all the coronation, everything, if you were just a representative monarchy where you simply, or you're just a monarchy that is just there, whatever system you have. You don't need to be head of state. And then very quickly, people refer to results they think they see. So, for example, they say, oh, the monarch is a voice of guidance or a voice of reason. And when you see that elected officials have to talk to unelected monarchs before they come to a conclusion, well, the general public doesn't have that exposure and has the chance to talk to the prime minister or any other leading figure. So why should an unelected monarch have that? So when you look at results you can prove, not results you feel or you think there might be something. So these are the first 3, the positive ones: actions, people, results. Now look into the negative factors. And the first one is structures. Is anything connected with your tradition promoting a structure that has inherent injustice in it? And of course, we have to say, when you look into royal societies, they are not known for being incredibly open-minded and diverse. And of course, you are born into a massive amount of privilege and have this whole privilege for the rest of your life. You can't even lose it deliberately. So when any kind of tradition has ingrained justice in the system, I give you an example. When you worked for Unilever, an international food giant, and Unilever in Hamburg, when they had the location, they still have the location in Hamburg. When you worked for Unilever, you could go to the so-called Hamburg Yacht Club, and you could rent a yacht and then go on the Alster, have a bit of a shipping moment and just enjoy. However, this was only available to men because the Hamburg Yacht Club did not accept women as a member. And for whatever reason, no one ever questioned that because, tradition. There we are. Ingrained injustice. It is inherently unjust to have these practices where you exclude people based on their gender. And you still, when you talk about men, women, you still talk about the binary gender model, which is scientifically speaking completely outdated anyway. So there was a Dutch CEO who suddenly said, what is this? We're going to open up for women. And then the Hamburg Yacht Club said, no, we're not going to accept women. And then the Unilever CEO said, well, we're going to cancel our membership then. And suddenly the Hamburg Yacht Club accepted female members. What a coincidence. So look into structures. Do the structures of your tradition promote any kind of inequality? Because if so, you have to change your tradition or you have to abolish it. Second negative aspect, privileges. Have you ever questioned the privileges people have due to your tradition? If no, you have to. If yes, is there any kind of privilege that you can, factually speaking, prove that it is worth to have the privilege? So let's say, for example, we have a global pandemic, as we just recently had. And for example, Professor Drosten was one of the professors in Germany who had the right to speak in very well-known public forums. So he had more voice than other people. He is one of the most qualified people in the world to do that. Scientifically proven knowledge. So that is a privilege which is perfectly okay because you can prove that there's a sustainable existing benefit to it. If you say, well, someone was born in the right family and, they have this privilege now because before that their father had that privilege, then you have an issue. Because people, especially people who enter the job market today, people who are in society today, they do not accept that someone gets any kind of privilege just due to birthright. They're questioning the status quo, and the less voice we give them, the less they will stick to probably other means of how to change things, and we don't want to go down that route, do we? Clearly, we do not want to go down that route. So question the privileges. If you've never done that, it's time to do that. And as long as you can prove factually that there's a certain privilege with it, scientifically proven, then you can say the privilege is okay. If it's just given by birthright, you need to change. And the third aspect is emotions. And now, of course, you can say, why is emotions on the negative side? Emotions is something nice. Many people had a positive emotional reaction to what they saw. Well, not everyone, of course, but many people had a positive emotional reaction to what they saw at the coronation. The main issue is as soon as emotions take over, it often means that facts have no voice anymore. So do you have any moments where the emotion takes over, but the facts are actually different? And if so, why do you still do it? When there is no factual reasoning, you have to change your tradition. I give you an example. There's a reason why data science is in high demand, because companies, organizations, business unit, divisions, any kind of entity, they found out data-driven decision-making leads to a better solution. So you have to see, are there moments in your organization where emotions take over due to a certain tradition? And due to that, you're going to probably not come to the best conclusion or even make straightforward bad decisions. And that is the third negative aspect you have to look into. And that's why emotions is on the negative side of the list. And of course, following from looking into the positive and negative, you have to enter a discussion. Three main aspects about the discussion. First, the discussion is important and it has to be led. You have to conduct the discussion if you like it or not. If you say, we are not discussing this, please don't complain about not finding the right labor people who want to work for you. You are stubborn and you deserve to have a talent shortage. The discussion is possible at any point in time given, and you should be part of it. Second, the discussion must be conducted in a diverse way, because if it's non-diverse, you only speak to the same privileged people who will tell you, let's just keep it that way because we like our privileges. They will, of course, not say that word by word. They will say, oh, we have this tradition, it worked so well, let's keep doing it. Yeah, well, because it played in their favor. And the third discussion, the third part of the discussion you will have is there must be a balance of power. If you have people being part of the discussion or you want them to join the discussion, if they say, well, whatever I say here, you're not going to listen anyway, because at the end you want to do what you want to do and you just keep going your way, then people will not be part of the discussion and most likely leave your organization. And that's, of course, not what you want to have. So have a balance of power in the discussion. If you do not do that, by the way, there will be a negative impact on the whole organization because, and that's the main point here, every action you take, no matter which one, sends an unambiguously clear message about what you stand for, what your values are, and how you live these values. And the interesting moment then will be, then they will look into, is there a congruence between the values, what you stand for, what the values are, how you live these values? Is there a congruence with how you act? And often you have organizations claiming, oh, we have flat hierarchies, quick decisions, and respect is at our utmost importance. And then suddenly people say, oh, you like to act respectfully? That's new to me. And that's where the trouble begins, where you suddenly, either on Glassdoor.com or on Germany, Kununu, German-speaking areas, Kununu, where you simply get negative reviews because people say you're basically lying to the general public. What you claim, what you are not. So no matter what action you take, no matter what action you commit, it sends an unambiguously clear message about what you stand for, what your values are, and how you live these values that you claim that you have. Look into how congruent is that with the message you send, either from your organization, internally and externally, and then take appropriate action, because you now have to look into how do you want to deal with tradition, because just winging it or just keep going, it worked out in the past, that is not a sustainable concept. And I wish you all the best talking about this and finding an appropriate conclusion. And of course, I published about this. So when you want to know more, so maybe you're now hearing this and you think, because there are 3 steps that I always recommend at the end of each podcast. So when you now say, hey, that's a big topic, and I think we have issues here, we like to talk about something, just drop me an email, nb@nb-networks.com, and then we take it from there. If you have something very specific, training, speaking, coaching, whatever you need, just let me know. But if you just want to talk about your questions, perfectly fine as well. Drop me an email, and then we can either communicate via email or meet for a chat, whatever you want. I'm open for absolutely anything. Second aspect I always recommend, if you want to get free access to everything I publish, that is only possible via the expert letter. If you go to expert.nb-networks.com, then you can sign up for that. every Wednesday morning, you receive exactly one email. And in that email is 100% content, ad-free guarantee, but only via that email, you get free access to anything that I published or publish, expert.nb-networks.com. Thank you very much for signing up. And the third aspect is the most important one. Apply what you heard in this podcast, because only when you apply what you heard, you will have the positive impact that you want to have within your organizations or organization, if it's just one. I wish you all the best implementing these steps in your organization. Just let me know if you need help. I'm always available to do so. And now I wish you a great week. And at the end of this podcast, there's only one thing left for me to say. Thank you very much for your time.